Saying that stupidity spreads like the flu might sound wild until you watch a crowd cheer a lie they could check in seconds, or scroll through social media and see smart people trade thought for slogans. Dietrich Bonhoeffer noticed this sickness growing in Germany while he was still free to speak, and later, stuck in a Berlin jail, he wrote that stupidity, not evil, could be the deadlier threat to good. Evil warns us, it makes us uneasy, so we stay alert. Stupidity slips in wrapped in familiar words, and by the time we realize, we're already repeating it. Bonhoeffer's prison notes are simple, just thoughts jotted down by a man who knew his days were numbered. But they cut deeper than any polished speech because he watched regular folks, not comic book villains. He saw a neighbor who once argued about football scores turn into a mouthpiece for madness, and he shivered at how facts just bounced off that new shell. That frightened him more than cold cells or firing squads, the speed at which ordinary minds could rent themselves out to slogans and turn against reality. When Bonhoeffer talked about stupidity, he didn't mean low IQ or everyday mistakes. He mapped a mental switch that flips when fear, laziness, or the need to fit in makes people outsource their thinking. Once that switch clicks, even a clever person's mind becomes an echo chamber. They stop checking where ideas come from, stop asking if arguments make sense, and stop caring about truth. All that matters is the buzz of belonging and the comfort of no longer wrestling with doubt. That surrender spreads. Bonhoeffer saw that stupidity grows faster in crowds than alone. Today, we live in a digital stadium where the crowd never sleeps. Every swipe, every ping, every trending tag draws us back to the campfire, where you either chant or get silenced. The internet connects billions, but connection is neutral electricity. It can light up a city or shock a prisoner. Those same platforms that let you learn from free textbooks also pump out conspiracy fuel to minds already hungry for certainty. If stupidity is a social drug, its first sign is our sense of time shrinking. Conversations speed up, patience vanishes, and anything that needs thought feels like a waste. A long article is suspect. A 2-second meme is gospel. Real thought needs slow work, holding two ideas at once and letting them collide. Strip away time, and the mind falls back on reflex, which means slogans, which means we stop seeing loved ones as people and start seeing them as avatars for a side. Why is this theory so scary? Because it puts the blame back on each of us. It's easy to fight evil and still feel righteous. It's hard to face that we might be the ones letting half-baked ideas run our lives. Stupidity is everywhere, slipping through our own skin. It feeds on comfort, boredom, and the cowardice of wanting to belong more than wanting to be right. You cannot argue someone out of stupidity because they didn't argue themselves into it. What hope did Bonhoeffer see? He said we liberate ourselves through action. You don't think your way out of stupidity, you act your way out. Courageous choices break the trance because they risk something real, your reputation, your safety, maybe even your life. Those risks expose where lazy certainty is hollow. Cowards, by contrast, marinate in untested beliefs until they harden like shell. At its core, Bonhoeffer's message brings an old warning into our megaphone era. Stupidity is a moral slip even before it turns cruel, because handing off your judgment lets anyone grab the wheel. Once we turn politics, faith, or identity into a team sport, the level of thought drops to the crowd's roar. A choir can hit a note no soloist can hold, and a mob can sink to depths none of its members would choose alone. Listen to the language of stupidity, and you'll hear worn-out phrases grinding like broken gears. Stock lines replace sentences that need thought. Someone says history is on their side, as if history hands out scorecards. Someone claims experts agree, as if truth were decided by vote. Those dead metaphors give the feeling of knowledge without the hard work of study. Bonhoeffer, teaching students under Nazi rule, tore those metaphors apart until only honest questions remained. Still, he didn't hate the stupid. To him, stupidity wasn't a mental defect, but a human failing that any of us could catch. You condemn the disease, not the sick, but you quarantine it. The cure is exposure to reality strong enough to shatter empty slogans. Sometimes that dose comes as loss, sometimes as moral witness from the few who dare to speak. Bonhoeffer's own life delivered both. He never lived to see if his letters changed minds. 9 days before Allied troops arrived, the regime hanged him. His last words to a British officer were simple: "This is the end. For me, the beginning of life." He had paid the price for thinking freely when thinking was treason. His death proved his point. Stupidity demands obedience. Defiance demands sacrifice. Today, the stakes are doubled. Algorithms sort our feeds by intensity, not accuracy. They learn which headlines spike our pulse and serve more of the same, teaching us to judge outrage as involvement. Swamped with information, we drown rather than learn. Bonhoeffer saw that more facts won't cure stupidity, because it's not about lacking data, but refusing to weigh it honestly. So the first step is deliberate doubt. Great philosophers from long ago kept journals of their own confusion. Bonhoeffer wrote prayers asking for grace to hear an opponent without crafting a rebuttal in his head. You don't have to agree, but you must let their point land before you punch back. Next is attention hygiene. If digital design rewards outrage, it will grow outraged minds. Curate your feed like your diet. Switch off the cheap sugar of perpetual fury, and your taste buds rediscover subtle flavors. Long essays, original texts, honest questions. Bonhoeffer spent afternoons reading Psalms in Hebrew not to show off, but to let old words shine free of propaganda. Finally, speak even when you're unsure. Staying silent often equals going along. Bonhoeffer preached against the regime when his own church begged him to hush. Every time we call out a lie plainly, we carve a pocket of clear air for others. The risk is real: jobs, friends, even safety. But the reward is sharing reality instead of enforcing fantasy. What would Bonhoeffer think about today's feeds? Technology just magnifies old temptations. Rome had rumor mills. We have push notifications. Our hearts still crave certainty, tribes, shortcuts, excuses. Stupidity rides those cravings like a surfer rides waves. It thrives in water cooler talk, celebrity gossip, academic trends. Wherever people skip doubt, it blooms. The real fear is close to home. Stupidity fogs our own mirror unless we wipe it off every day. That wipe takes work: careful reading, wide company, slow talk, real stakes. Yet there's joy in it too, because clear thinking feels like fresh air after months in a smoky room. It brightens colors, sharpens grief, and pleasure. The price of clarity is vigilance. The price of giving up is living at the mercy of the loudest voice. 100 years after Bonhoeffer's death, regimes still ride the mass feeling he named. Marketers, cults, influencers, anyone who flatters anger or resentment uses the same tricks. The script repeats: offer belonging, feed resentment, watch smart people parrot nonsense with bright eyes. Some will wake up when a loved one suffers, or when loss strips away comfort. Others won't. So where is hope? It lies in the stubborn few who keep the inner workshop lit. They check sources, ask follow-ups, admit mistakes, stay loyal to principle above party. They're mocked as pedants until a crisis breaks and everyone needs the bridges they kept standing. Bonhoeffer was one such bridge. He didn't survive the flood, but he left a warning light. Stupidity gains force, yet minds can break. We honor him not by putting him on a pedestal, but by copying his clarity. Read your opponents at their best, trace headlines to first sources, say, "Show me," even to your own side, admit when you're bored or scared by simple answers, and back your beliefs with deeds that carry risk. Nothing clears fog like real stakes. The scary part of this theory is that it holds us responsible for our own undoing. The good part is that it hands us the cure. Think, doubt, test, act, repeat. Trade applause for accuracy. Welcome awkward silence. Embrace the loneliness of conviction until company arrives. This is not grand heroism, but daily discipline. In such discipline, Bonhoeffer found freedom behind bars, and through it we can walk through an age of noise without letting it tell us what we hear. We might never face the death camp he did, but we face softer traps that demand our attention and sell it to the highest bidder. Their dream is a public that swipes without question. Bonhoeffer's challenge is to be gloriously hard customers. Slow down, check facts. Dare to stand alone until truth finds you company. The crowd may boo today, but tomorrow someone who saw you hold out will find courage to join you. That tiny spark of doubt feels lonely at first, but it lights a path. Every time someone stops to question, the spell lifts in a small circle. Sparks connect into beacons. Bonhoeffer's legacy is in those beacons, not in the rope that ended his life. He reminds us the fight for clear minds is never over, always personal, always possible. Stupidity will never go away. It is intelligence's shadow, always whispering that thinking is hard and tribal noise is easy. But every time a person pauses to test an idea, the world brightens a little. Every honest question is a brick in a wall against the flood. When enough bricks stack up, the wall of noise cracks and lets in true freedom. And that is where stupidity finally chokes.